Maybe.
Live. It's me and Dukes again, guys. Hi, Duke.
What is going on?
Hi, buddy.
He's so wiggly.
Okay. All right. Morning. Hi, guys.
Hi, how are you? It is great to see you all. We are so well prepared for today. I'll just tell you that much. It's incredible. It's remarkable.
Speak for yourself. I'm very well prepared. We weren't ready to see a little puppy on the screen. That
true.
breaks down all of our defenses.
That is 100% true. I'm going to just put you on the spot, Anthony, and say you're going to have to read the intro because you sent me last week's intro. So, yeah. I
did.
I just pulled it up like,
Well, but first, I think we need to talk about the fact that I live up north, and we so far have not had any snow, but we're pretty close to. I was watching a documentary on penguins, and because we get some snow, I want to try and do what the penguins were doing in the documentary. Do you know how a penguin makes a house?
No, tell me how a penguin makes a house.
It glues it together.
It glues it together.
Oh God!
I just sent you the show notes, Chris.
All right, I appreciate that.
All right, I've got a knock joke for you guys.
What do we have?
Knock knock.
Who's there, Anthony?
Hike.
Hike who?
Unsuspecting friend. Dad waiting with bated breath. Sets the perfect trap.
Oh, I knew when I said haiku. That is just. I think we all need to take a deep breath there after igloo and haiku. Like that's just. I mean, do we believe that the pun is the funniest ass? Well, welcome. It is good to see you. Hey, you two, what if your safe hire is actually your riskiest bet? Wade Foster built Zapier to 600 employees without an HR department until 8 years. His early hires were unproven developers who learned on the job, a bet that worked because Zapier's remote first model forced them to document everything, accidentally creating the training infrastructure potentials hire needed. Today, on How to Founder, we're going to be talking about hiring for experience versus potential. I'm your host, Chris Franks. With me, Anthony Franco. It is good to see you, Anthony.
How you doing?
Stephanie Hayes. It is great to see you too. It is just the three of us. We had a guest, but it's Martin Luther King Day here in the U.S. Understand, had to cancel. So we decided just the three of us to talk about this. So before we even get going, tell me about your experience in hiring for potential versus experience here. So we've probably all done both. Give me a story of when it worked, when it didn't work on either side of the equation, starting with you, Stephanie.
All right. I used to run the team for our professional services division of a business we started up, and we had a team of about 30 to 50 consultants. And my best consultant, which turned out to be my best consultant, was a woman that I hired straight out of university, no experience, nothing. And she was super moldable. She picked everything up really quickly, and she's gone on to create a really wonderful career for herself over the last 20 years as a consultant. She was fantastic. So she was hired with no experience and simply based on who she was, how she showed up, and that was an incredible success story.
Love it. Anthony, what about you? Good or bad?
I'll take the flip. Hired at Effective, hired twice based on deep experience in Rolodex to senior VPs out of Adobe, Adobe salespeople, and they never closed a deal. They never closed the deal.
Weird. Just because they have a Rolodex doesn't mean that they immediately become awesome salespeople.
We thought we were being smart by hiring up, and it just didn't work out. And that means that you probably get where I'm leaning, but maybe not. How about you, Chris?
The best experience I've always had with hiring potential. Almost always when you hire somebody for experience, it never quite works out. And I guess those are two concentric circles that, ideally you want to have those that meet someplace. But when I hire somebody, because I'm like, oh, I don't know how to do this thing. And I don't understand how to do this thing. I'm going to go hire somebody with experience in doing this thing. Almost never works out the way that I want it to. I want to ask a broader question for y'all, though, which is, why are founders so terrible at hiring? And I know I'm making an assumption here, but I don't think that any of us are going to disagree. It is a incredibly difficult skill, but almost every founder will tell you, "Oh, I'm great at it. I have a really good sense. I have a good sense of humans."
Anybody that tells you that they're good at hiring, they're lying out of their ass.
Or just delusion.
That is. I think just hiring in general is hard. And a lot of times here's the problem with hiring in general. You don't know until they're in the job. You just don't know. You're making hopefully an educated guess based on how well they interview and what their resume says and what their experience is, but you just don't know. And some managers will in IT, right? They look at your GitHub repository and your commits in GitHub. That is a surefire way of hiring somebody that knows how to push a lot of code, but doesn't necessarily push good code. And really good developers are not even pushing to GitHub. So that's a terrible way. I don't know. Steph, how successful are you at hiring?
I'm actually really good at hiring. And I think that there are a lot of things I'm not good at.
I should have asked that question differently. Stephanie, how come you're so good at hiring?
So listen, lots of stuff I don't do very well, but I'm actually really good at finding good people. And, I've had my share of, fuck ups for sure. But here's why, because I think founders have a hard time hiring because they don't understand what the job needs to be. And so they hire based on, can I get along with this person? Or do I like this person? Or did they have experience with my industry or my company? Because so many founders hire people who were clients as well, which I think is a huge mistake. So I just have the advantage of the work that I do. I understand what the business needs and what the role needs to be. And because I've been in every part of business, I also know what you look for somebody to do that role well. And it's not always the technical skills, right? And so that's been something that I've really spent a lot of time kind of trying to focus on. And then it's a little bit of intuition as well. So when you have really broad experience across all those different parts of business, it makes it a little bit easier to be able to see whether this is a good fit for the position or not, because it's not a checklist of skills, right? It's more like experiences and, can you think on your feet? And for some roles, that's not what you need, right? So I think that's where a lot of people are missing, is that alignment between what the role is, because I think a lot of founders don't really understand what the role actually is. I had a founder who was trying to hire for what really should have been a team lead kind of project manager, and they hired a developer because the developer had worked on projects before, but that's not at all what the role needed, right? So I think that's where the big gap is understanding the role and the work, as opposed to a checklist of skills that a quote unquote project manager would have, that kind of thing.
I think that so one of the things, Anthony, that we do is that we hire when we're in severe pain. So usually what happens is we get to a place where, as the founder, I'm doing too many jobs and I'm starting to break a little bit, not doing really what the business needs me to do. And so I end up hiring probably a little bit more quickly than I should. ended up hiring the wrong person. Have you ever had that?
Yeah, every single hire. That's that has been the case. The I think Stephanie really hit on something that's really important. And as as a founder, and even as your company grows and you become, you have, as you grow as a leader, and as your company grows and you need different kinds of people, you're always trying to figure out, like, if this is your first rodeo as a founder and you're lucky enough to be in a company that's growing, when you're hiring, you're always hiring kind of for the first time for that role. And the mistake I've made in the past, is not understanding how to delegate that role. And Steph, to your point, it's like, it's really important to understand what it is that role needs. And the second, so one is, I don't know how to delegate to that role. Two is, I'm probably not that great a delegator. And that's why experience is attractive to me. It's like, I don't have to tell this person how to do the job. They're going to come in already knowing how. And that's burned me quite often, actually.
So I think that there's like, I would never argue that one or the other is the key. It like, do it all one way or do it all the other. I think you have to be conscious of which roles in the organization need to be somebody who comes in with experience and can be a leader in developing that part of the business based on their experience. And then where can we also put people underneath that who can absorb and, build and kind of run with it, that have the right potential and the right personalities and the right, mindset for that particular role. And this is where it gets so important to understand sort of the personality side of people as well. Like I would argue that rather than putting teams together based on roles and hierarchy, you put teams together based on, I need in any given team, I need a commander, I need a connector, I need a learner, I need like those sort of like, that's what really rounds out a team, as opposed to, a project manager and a developer and a whatever, right?
Chris, do you think first of all, recognizing that if we all lean towards potential and hiring for potential matters, we're all screwed. We have a lot of experience. I'm wondering if it's a false dichotomy. Do you have to choose one over the other? Can you hire for potential and experience?
I'm sure you can. I think that the interesting question, and it's kind of back to the question I asked you all, which is, how long are you willing to wait to find that person? And then how much are you willing to pay for that person? Is somebody today that's not perfect going to be better than finding the perfect person, a month, 2 months, 3 months from now? And so I'll tell you that, all the research around high performing teams is about psychological safety. Psychological safety is about fit. It's about understanding your role, your responsibility within a team, and taking on, to your point, Stephanie, what is that spoken and unspoken role that you have within the team? And so hiring for fit really is the most important things if you want your team to be high performing. But if you don't have that skill set, that expertise, ability to actually do the job that's on the accountability chart, it's not going to work either. So I think there is some sort of a combination that you have to have, Anthony. And I think it's an impossibility to say that we can define that, simply. It's not something that every job, every organization, every hire is going to be unique in that capacity. I know I'm famously saying it's impossible for us to define, but that's kind of my take. You guys agree, disagree?
Well, I think you have to decide like where are you right now in your growth? So if this is my first hire, I'm going to be very, very careful about bringing somebody in who can, if I'm hiring because I need to start offloading work, I'm going to bring somebody in who's already a ringer, right? Who's going to be able to take that off of me. If I'm hiring because I know that down the road I'm going to need somebody, I might hire for potential and put the time and investment into train them up. It also depends on how committed I am to things being done in a certain way. So certain roles, I'm very, very adamant about things being done in a certain way, and I might train for that instead of being like, you know what, this thing over here, I need it done, but I'm not super committed to whether it's, in this fashion or that fashion. So just bring someone on, let them figure out.
So I think
one of
where
my
we're
hiring criteria, Chris, just so you know, it's how does somebody pronounce about and process?
It's not process.
That's me. Well, I get it. I understand.
How do you pronounce about? It's about.
It's a boot. Come on.
I don't say
Why
a
are
boot.
You don't hear it. No, sorry, I didn't mean to divert us from that. Chris, I'm curious. Have you actually ever hired somebody just for their potential?
Absolutely, and it's worked out better almost all the time. And
how do you define
company.
Potential?
Yeah.
How do you define that?
I think particularly because we're a 3.5 person company right now, and so the job to be done for this person is this person needs to wear a lot of different hats and be intelligent, curious, and ability to task switch incredibly rapidly, handle a lot of ambiguity, while continuing to try to figure stuff out. And so to me, that capacity, it's almost easier for me to see that than to hire somebody that's a senior executive, because senior executives have to come in with a sense of like, I actually know what's happening. And they oftentimes lack that sense of curiosity that I think is really important for them to be successful. So I think that hiring for potential, I'm actually weaker at hiring for experience than I am potential. What about you guys?
Yeah, so one of the pitfalls of hiring for experience, especially if you're a smaller company, and this is a direct. So if you're hiring somebody with experiences coming from a corporate environment into a startup situation, that's a really big culture shock for that person to come in, because there's no IT department. I mean, at Effective, until we were 50 people, you had to come in and assemble your own IKEA desk. Like that was day one for you. That's not what a quote unquote executive from a corporate environment is going to want to do. And that kind of sets everybody up for, this is the kind of job it is. Like you're going to have to figure stuff out on your own. So there's also a mentality that, and every time I've had to let one of those people go, it's like, well, I just didn't have the support I needed to get my job done. That's essentially the problem. Nobody in an early stage company, less than 100 people, have the support they need to get their job done, and they figure out a way.
Yeah.
Those are the people that don't ask for permission or don't wait for somebody to tell them to do something. They have initiative, and they're likely to make some more mistakes than somebody with an experience, but at least they're doing stuff.
Stephanie, I want to give you a chance to react, but I've got a follow-up question too. So your thoughts on this?
I'm so curious about your own experience, Chris, because you were hired for potential in your current role, right? And I'm wondering if they've seen that yet.
No, I mean, pretty much not. Yeah, I think the answer is no in all facets.
My ex-husband used to say that I was a life mentor, and I married him because he was part of a program called Big Life Partners, just like Big Sisters, Big Brothers, and I was teaching him how to mentoring, how to do life.
So I want to flip the script for a second with you and say, let's talk about a time when hiring for experience, somebody a little bit more senior, somebody that was very experienced in a role actually worked, and how did you handle that component of it? Versus, we've talked about experience and we've talked about failure in hiring for experience. When have you found a time that it's actually worked, and how did you approach that? Stephanie?
I think for once, Anthony actually makes a really good point, right? Like it's not about, it's not that the only option for hiring with experience is hiring somebody out of corporate, right? So in my world, there's lots of people floating around who have had lots of experience running, like working in startups and small businesses, and they understand that sort of scrappy-do environment. So they're going to come in and they're going to be able to hopefully implement stuff. The challenge with those guys is that they want increasingly levels of, you know, it's a little ego driven, right? Like, I want to be the CEO, I want to be the leader, I want to whatever. But the ones who are really, really like will never work outside of a small business, they're great because they'll come in, they know exactly what needs to be done, and they're used to working in that type of environment. So I think, like, the times that I meet somebody and I'm like, this person's a ringer, and I want to put them in and just have them run because they're already ready to do that. I would say that's few and far between. I think that's less what I run into, as opposed to someone who really sort of stands out for me and is like, I could train this person up, right? So there's somebody that I'm working with right now on someone else's team, and I actually really want them on my team. I'm going to pursue them, not full time. She could do both, right? But I'm going to pursue them because I've seen her work and it's excellent. So, how much can you get an insight into how they're working now before you bring them onto your team? That's the benefit of being a consultant, is you get to like come across all these different people in all these different environments, right?
So Stephanie's saying poaching is the answer. You just
Poach, well, I mean,
yeah.
that's always the answer. The roles that you kind of need experience for, let's talk about those, right? So if design leadership for sure. Design is really important. I found recruiters, hiring a recruiter without experience, they're usually not very good.
Even the ones with experience are terrible.
True, but you're more likely to get a good one that has experience than not. PR actually matters as well. Somebody with PR experience, if you're looking for earned media experience, there matters. Leadership, I think you're absolutely right, Steph. Those are the roles that I've seen success hiring somebody with experience. Sales doesn't matter. Sales is a crapshoot. Some
of the best salespeople I have ever worked with are people who are not salespeople. Like one of the members of my team, and I put her into almost all of our clients. She's a life coach, and she and I used to work on someone else's business and their sales. We ran their launch sales, but she was never a salesperson. She got trained up on it, but she's so good at closing sales because she's so empathetic. And because she has this unique role where she's like customer service and community manager, and she basically kind of does sales because she's got her finger on the pulse of all these people, and she just knows how to have these conversations. So I would say sales is like the last thing that I would hire for experience. 100%.
I want to ask one more question before we get in the speed round. And I think it's the obvious piece about what's changed right now in 2026 versus any other time, which is we now have this thing called AI. I asked AI about a legal document this morning. We have so much knowledge that exists out there that can help close the gap in two different ways. But I want to ask, how does AI and incorporating AI into your workflow, how does that change your calculus on experience versus non-experience?
I think it's a really interesting question, Chris, because in reality, AI's putting those potentials, making their job hunt a lot harder. Or if you look at law firm practices, law firms are no longer hiring interns. They're hiring, they're using AI and hiring people with at least 2 years of experience only. So I think the gap right now in the market, in the job market, is for those people that are either coming out of college or coming out of a trade school. Because if you just look at the job stats, not a lot of people are hiring people, not a lot of companies are hiring people with no experience, which maybe puts puts startups more at an advantage because you can now have higher quality talent to choose from.
This comes back to how you manage, right? So, the old management by objective, I don't know why anyone is still managing based on time spent in the day and any of that shit.
Well, if you work at McDonald's, you kind of have to be there at certain times.
My expectation is you're going to achieve these outcomes. I don't give a shit. How do you do this? Takes AI off the table. Because I'm so sick of this conversation of it's going to take my job. It's going to take everybody's job. Blah, blah, blah. Shut up. Just look, here's the objective for your job. Now we get to do higher value work. Here's the objective for your job. I don't care how you do it. Why would you as a manager want to spend any more time than you have to micromanaging someone's work? I want you to give me an outcome and I don't care how you do it. I really don't. That's the best way to manage because you get to leverage a whole bunch more of your time. But people who get really afraid of that and their ego is wrapped up in managing those are the people who are going to be afraid of what AI can do for everybody's work. Just take it off the table, man. Stop worrying about it. There's resources out there and available. Now, if your objective is to create content for me and it has to be factual and it has to be good, then make factual good content. But if your content is not factual or has problems in it, you're not achieving the objective. I don't care how you found it, right? I don't care how you created it, but just that's the outcome. So I don't care how you do it.
I agree.
I think that the opportunity there is for founders is to hire for more potential. Because if you find somebody for good fit, no matter what their role is, there's tools now available to help you figure stuff out.
I will say one thing, and I'm not sure if this is a good point of view or not. I'd actually like both of your input on this. How do I phrase this? If I'm down to 2 candidates, so you're in a startup situation and you're down to 2 candidates. One has potential and doesn't have a job. The other one has experience and does have a job. There also is a factor, one of the things that you need to consider is hiring that person with potential without a job currently. It's less risky for them and you because you're not asking them to quit something and move over to you. And if it doesn't work, you have to fire them versus somebody that doesn't have a job with lots of potential. It's easier to set expectations with that individual, hey, we're going to try this out for 30 days. And somebody without a job or somebody that is in a part-time job or just a side hustle gig, they're going to be more open to proving themselves into the role rather than somebody that has experience. And you're going to have to convince somebody that has a job to quit that to come over to you. And there's some risk in there. You're may have to make some guarantees or promises that you don't want to make.
Agreed.
Maybe. Right. One thing I have been so surprised about is how people, even people who have potential, even people who are skilled already, how people will default to the lowest common denominator of expectations. So, I ran a consulting company and our model was that nobody was an employee. We had ringers, right? We pulled together a whole team of ringers who were high-end consultants. And we thought, okay, these are highly motivated high-end consultants. And if we give them motivation to make more money, they're going to take that. None of them did. They could have gone and sold more work and found, because they were getting compensated well with us. And, our job was to keep them around, but none of them would do it. So you just don't know until you try, but that could be a huge cost for me to have to then replace somebody again and again. I don't want to be in perpetual hiring. So I'm not sure that that's a dead easy answer. I would hire, number one, for curiosity and resourcefulness.
I like it. It's a good sort of pessimistic and somewhat dark and bleak way to now move into the speed round. All right.
Just before you start,
No,
I
we're
was
at the
like,
speed round. You can't. No, we're already beyond it. There's no
for the
more.
record, I won an award from the Optimists Club for my optimism.
That's amazing.
The irony was she didn't think she was going to get it.
Yeah. Wow.
I didn't even know I was saying it. I just got this letter that says, I didn't even know the Optimist Club was a thing, but I got this letter saying you're being awarded this Optimist Club.
That's incredible. Congratulations for being an optimist.
I'm a
in the
freaking
most
optimist,
pessimistic way possible. All right, I'm going to read you a question. I'm going to start with you, Stephanie, and then Anthony, give me the answers. What percentage of a hire's success is you versus them, their ability? So you setting them up for success versus their ability that they bring into it.
100%.
Of
how you set them up for success.
How you set them up. Got it. Okay.
Yep.
Anthony?
Yeah, I agree. When a hire isn't successful, it's your fault, not theirs.
Overpay for experience or underpay for potential? Stephanie?
Oh, it depends. It depends on what I need right now.
Anthony?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gut says yes. Reference says no. Who wins?
What was the question?
Your gut says yes. The references say no. Who wins?
The references.
I totally agree.
Your last hire failed. Blame the candidate or your process?
My process. Not my process. I think blame a lot of things, but not necessarily the candidate, unless they lied.
Okay.
It's a great answer. Yep, agree.
10 years at one company or 2 years at 5? Who's a riskier employee?
10 years at one company.
I draw no difference.
A 2-year resume gap, red flag or a hidden story?
Hidden story. You can't ask either, but who cares?
That's great.
Yeah, I agree.
Deep dive resources for us. Who? The Method for Hiring by Jeff Smart and Hire with Your Head by Lou Adler. Good conversation, you two. I learned a little bit. I learned about being optimistic from Stephanie, being a winner of the Optimist Club thing.
No cynic here.
Yeah.
Stephanie, you want me to close? You gonna close it?
You want me to close it? All right.
Yeah.
If you are still listening to us, and I see there's 5 people who are, bless your hearts. Thank you. Thank you for being with us on this journey today and every day. We believe so much that you are the source of economic prosperity, and we're so happy to have you join us on our show. You can go and find us on howtofounder.com, follow us on the platforms, and we'll see you next episode. Thanks, guys.